Are you tired of plain old chicken breast and you're looking for a way to liven it up? Well, I've got the perfect solution for you here. This is balsamic chicken and mushrooms. Comes together quickly, so it makes a great weeknight meal. So if you want to keep your chicken breast from being ho-hum, stick around because I'm going to show you how to make this coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name's Roy. I'm a home cook, an amateur baker, and I'm here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today is not one of mine. I know, calm down, it's gonna be okay. I was going to do another dessert because I've been playing around with a lot of desserts. But Paul said, you need to change it up and get some actual meals in there, some savory dishes. So I panicked and he said, you say you use yours or someone else's, why not just use someone else's? And that's what I'm doing today. Now, I get emails all the time from different food websites, and this one comes from food.com. They sent an email the other day. Yes, I have not tried this recipe yet. And they had like 70 low carb recipes. And the first one that I saw really stuck out to me. And when I mentioned it to Paul, he said, yes, do that one. So this is for food.com's balsamic chicken and mushrooms. Now, before you balk at the mushrooms, if you don't like mushrooms, change it up. Use onions, use some peppers, maybe a mixture of both. You could change it out for broccoli, what have you. So don't feel like you have to use the mushrooms in this, because I know some people are not fans of mushrooms. And actually, I used to be one of them. I thought mushrooms were the worst, but now I really do enjoy them. But you do what you need to do. This is your weight loss journey. You do it as you have to do it. But I'm doing it with mushrooms, so let's go over the ingredients. Now here I have 2 chicken breasts that I've sliced into cutlets. I'll show you here how I slice them. I just went through the middle and I kept my hand on the counter so I could try to get it as even as possible. But in the recipe it calls for 4-ounce chicken breasts. And I don't know about you, but I don't think I've seen a 4-ounce chicken breast since I was young, because all of these things they're doing to bulk up the animals and get as much as they can out of them. But unless you're raising your own, Joan and Jay, I'm talking to you, it's likely you'll have to divide larger chicken breasts into cutlets. And these aren't even 4 ounces. These are probably about 6 ounces each. But I'm going with the 4 ounces for later, giving you the bites, points, calories, and macros. And the only ones it's going to affect are the calories and macros. I'm on the Healthy Better Balance plan, which is equivalent to the old WW Blue plan, which is essentially their current plan. And on that, chicken breast is 0, so it's not going to affect the bites or points. So I don't mind using a larger piece. Here I have an 8-ounce package of mushrooms that I've quartered. In the recipe, it says 2 cups of mushrooms that are quartered or halved if they're really smaller ones. I'll show you here, I did end up having slightly larger ones, so I quartered some. And then the really large ones, I cut into 6 pieces so that they're all about the same size. But you could slice them if you want. You could buy the pre-sliced ones. You don't have to go through the fuss. But this is going to give it a little more texture than the sliced ones would. But one of those small 8-ounce packages should be sufficient. Here I have 1/3 cup of chicken broth. Now the recipe says you could use chicken broth or white wine. I'm opting for the lower bite, lower point version, but you could use some white wine. 1/3 cup, I can't imagine is going to add many bites or points, especially spread out over 4 servings. Here I have 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, and those are divided, as you can see, because one part's going into one part of the dish, one part is going into another part of the dish. So that is divided, as is my next ingredient. Here I have 2 teaspoons of canola oil. They say vegetable oil in the recipe. I go with canola. I'm actually using real oil. I may use a little cooking spray if it looks a little too dry in there. But using a little bit of oil isn't going to really damage the bites or points on this. So I don't mind using a little bit, but I will bump it up with some cooking spray if the pan looks a little too dry when I get there. Here I have 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard. You could maybe use like a spicy brown. I probably wouldn't use a yellow, but I'm going with exactly what they are doing, and I'll later let you know how we liked it. Here I have 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. Now the recipe only calls for 1, but the recipe does say or more, so we're going with more. Last but not least, I have a 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme here. It says dried thyme crushed. So what I'm going to do when I get to that point is just crumble it a little bit more in my fingers as we go along. That's just to help it disperse without having to use too much of it. So that's all we need right there. I'm going to shuffle a few things around and we're going to get started. This comes together pretty quickly. All right, so I have my skillet on the stove top. I have it over medium-high heat. The recipe actually doesn't tell you what heat to put it on, but I'm gonna let this get hot. I like to sear my meat over medium-high, but you can go down to medium if you feel more comfortable with that, or if your stove top tends to run a little hot. So while this is heating, I'm gonna take 2 tablespoons of the balsamic, the garlic, and the mustard, and then I'm just going to whisk that together just to get that mustard incorporated into the balsamic vinegar. Okay, so that's homogeneous. Now I'm going to dredge each of my chicken breasts in this mixture and just get that lightly covered, and I'm just going to put it right back over here. Okay, so I've got my chicken marinated. I've got some leftover that's going to go into the pan. First, we're going to heat up 1 teaspoon of the oil. And as I said, I'm just going to give it a little spray of cooking spray as well, just to give that a little assistance. And then I'm going to swirl the pan just to let that oil spread out evenly across the pan. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add the chicken into the pan. And with 4, I'm going to try to do as best I can to get that situated in there. And you can hear that sizzle. That's exactly what you want to hear when you put meat into a pan. And that's going to go in along with the rest of this marinade that we had. Now this is going to cook on this side for 3 minutes. Then I'm going to flip it for another 3 minutes. So I'm going to clean up a few things and then I'll come back to flip them. All right, so it's been about 2 minutes so far. And what I usually like to do, especially in a larger skillet, is to just turn the chicken a little bit, keep it on this side, but just flip it around so that the other side that may not be getting as much heat gets some heat. Take that and just turn it so that the other side is getting a little heat. The other side is now in the center and can get a little bit of color. And that'll just sit for another minute. So it's been another minute. I'm now going to flip them onto the other side. And you'll see some blackening on some of them. And that's partly because of the balsamic. The balsamic has a little bit of sugar in there that is going to cook onto the chicken. But it's not burnt, it's just a little darker. This is cooked 6 minutes total. I am probably gonna go 4 minutes per side for 8 minutes total, just because I like to make sure that the chicken is cooked on the interior, but I just feel a little more comfortable doing it for 4 minutes a side. You can follow the recipe, you can follow me, you can do your own thing. But anyways, I'm gonna let this sit for about 2 minutes and then do the same thing where I turn whichever side is towards the outside of the pan in towards the center to get some more direct heat, and then we'll move on. All right, so it's been another 4 minutes, and just check the other side. It's got some nice color on there. So now what we're going to do is transfer these to a plate. And in the recipe, it says to keep warm, but doesn't give you any explanation. But what I usually do is just cover it with some foil to allow that to retain the heat. So set this over here, cover it with a bit of foil to hold that heat in there. And now what we're going to do is add in the other teaspoon of oil, and again a little spritz of cooking spray. And it won't take long for this to come up to temperature because it's already been over the heat. And toss in the mushrooms. Now it says to saute them for about a minute on this side, but I usually like mine cooked down a little bit more, so I'm gonna go a little bit further before I add in the other ingredients. All right, so I let these go for about 2 minutes, and I turn them a little bit just to get some color on each side. Now we're just going to add in the remaining ingredients. Chicken broth, the balsamic, and as I said, they suggested crushing the thyme, and even though it's fairly fine, I'm just going to pinch it between my fingers as I sprinkle that in. So now I'm going to stir this all through, and now it says to cook all of this down for about 2 more minutes until the mushrooms are deeply browned. I'm not sure if 2 minutes will be sufficient for me, but I will let you know how long I do let this cook. All right, so it's actually been about 4 minutes that I've been cooking this, and I wanted the balsamic glaze to cook down a little bit more. I didn't want it to be too wet, and I wanted the mushrooms to soften up a bit more and get a little more color. Now, these are changes that I will mention down in the description box. I will have a link to this recipe down there. I cannot write out the recipe because it is copyrighted, so I will link to it and just tell you the changes that I made, which were mostly just time, cooking things slightly longer than they suggested. So now the mushrooms are done. And this part is not in the recipe, but a lot of juices have come out of that chicken. So I'm going to pour that into the pan and let that all combine together and just stir that through. Now, these are just things that I've learned in my cooking, and that's why I'm doing them. But if you want to follow the recipe just as is, that's fine as well. Okay, now the final step is just to take our mushrooms and sauce and just pour it right on top of our chicken here. And that is all there is to it. There is the balsamic chicken and mushrooms from food.com, low carb, if anyone is looking for that. And it looks and smells delicious. But as I said, we haven't tried it yet. So I'm gonna list right here whether we liked it or not. I have a feeling we will. Chicken and mushrooms, I'm going to serve it with some rice and some mixed veggies. So this is going to be a delicious, hearty meal. And I don't mind using the rice because for one serving of this, it is only going to be 1 Better Balanced Bite or Old Blue Point. Now, on the recipe, and I don't know what points they were going by, it did say at the top that it was 4 WW points. I don't know how they got 4, but I only got 1 by putting it into the recipe builder on my Healthy app. I don't know if maybe they were going by the entire plate because this does make 4 servings, and I'm getting each serving as 1 bite or Blue Point. If you are following calories, the calories for 1 serving of this is going to be 166 calories. And if you are following macros, the fat is 4.9 grams. The carbs are 6.8 grams. The fiber is 2.2 grams. And the protein is 25.4 grams for 1 serving of this. Now, I'm hoping we enjoy it. You already know if I did. But if you liked this recipe and this video, I'd appreciate you doing the usual. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit that notification bell for the next time that I upload any sort of video. And speaking of supporting my channel, I do have a link down in the description box for a site called Buy Me a Coffee. If you are able to support my recipe testing and this channel, I would appreciate it. But obviously not everyone can do so, so don't worry if you can't, but I appreciate it if you can. Now, also in the description box, as I mentioned, I will link directly to this recipe on food.com. I will also list underneath that any changes I made. I did mention the couple of minor time changes, but if we tasted it and it wasn't exactly what I was hoping for, I may make a couple of other changes that will also be listed there. Also down there is my Amazon storefront, Built Bar Rewards, Stretch Rewards, Skinny Syrups code, and my social media if you'd like to follow me over there. I have my Instagram and 3 Facebook groups that I am part of. So go check out that description box for all sorts of information. All right, so I think it is time for me to get dinner on the table. I am hoping that we enjoy this, and if we did, I hope you'll be trying it yourself real soon. So until next time, bye.